to my channel. So today I'm here with a video on what hinders our spiritual progress. I think that, you know, sometimes things can be so deeply embedded in us that we don't even realize them, that we don't even, you know, realize that we're doing them and that we're getting in our own way. So today I just want to, you know, talk about the things that hinder us and, you know, just talk about how we can acknowledge them, because I think acknowledgement and knowledge is everything. Like, if we are aware of something and we know it, then we have the opportunity to change it. So without further ado, we're gonna get right into the video. By the way, these are in no specific order. I'm just kind of listing them as I go. But one of the first things I want to talk about that can hinder our spiritual progress is engaging in low vibrational activities or behaviors, or, you know, even engaging with low vibrational people. You know, the things that we engage ourselves in, the people that we find ourselves around can bring us down a whole lot. Like, if you're, you know, around people who are, you know, negative and they're just constantly bringing you down with their negativity, or, you know, they're even putting you down or hating on you, or they're engaging in, you know, activities that they're bringing you into that aren't good for you, you know, it's just not a positive thing. And so pretty much what low vibrational means to me is behaviors that aren't healthy for you or aren't healthy and positive for other people. And this can also entail, you know, too much drinking, too much drugs, too much partying, and things that just, you know, aren't good and aren't healthy for you. You know, and also things like social media. I just feel like, you know, there's so much out there in the world and out there in society that is negative, and everything that we read, everything that we watch, whether it's TV or whether it's the news, can really affect our spirit and bring us down. Like, do you ever notice how, you know, if you're watching the news and you're seeing all these things going on, it can really, you know, mess with your mind and just really kind of make you paranoid almost, like the world is a bad place. And don't get me wrong, like, we never want to be naive to the fact that there is negative in the world, and, you know, we can't get away from that. But at the end of the day, it can give you this negative mindset that most people are bad, or, you know, the world is bad almost entirely, when, you know, that's not completely true. There are good people in the world, there is positivity in the world, but, you know, when you turn on your TV and you're looking at the news and everything that you see is negative, that's getting in your spirit. So yeah, I would just say engaging in things that aren't healthy for you, that don't serve you, that aren't healthy for other people, whatever it is, whether it's social media, whether, you know, it's just taking in too much negative content, we have to be very careful of that. Okay, so another thing that hinders our spiritual progress is being negative, being pessimistic. One thing I believe is that, you know, of course we can't control everything that happens to us. Sometimes bad things happen to us and, you know, we have hard times, but I'm a believer in that, you know, although you can't control what happens to you, you can control how you respond to it. I think sometimes when bad things do happen to us, you know, we can almost get in this mindset of like victim mode. And I'm not saying that you're not entitled to feel pain, you're not entitled to feel down, you know, however, being negative and just being pessimistic about things isn't gonna help. You know, it never does. If anything, it's just gonna make the situation worse, because your mindset counts for a lot. So, you know, blaming God, blaming yourself, blaming the world isn't going to help you. You know, I think that it's so important as much as possible to try to keep a positive mindset. You know, you don't have to be happy-go-lucky all the time, but, you know, I think it's important also not to get too deep into being negative and pessimistic. So that's another thing. Another thing hindering our spiritual progress is all that unhealed trauma that we have. And your trauma can come from anywhere. It can come from your childhood, and it often does. It can come from different experiences that you've been through. It can come from anywhere. But what our trauma does is it acts as a weight on our soul, whether we even realize it or not, because some of our, you know, trauma is subconscious, that we don't always realize it. But, you know, I think it's so important, kind of going back to my earlier statement about knowing and acknowledging the things that are wrong and the things that need to be healed so that you can work through them. You know, if you never recognize that things are wrong, or you're not willing to heal from it, then, you know, you can't really move forward. And without moving forward, we can't reach our full potential and that full level of progress that we're looking for. So I think it's so important to heal. My motto is that, you know, you have to feel in order to heal. I think oftentimes we try to avoid negative feelings because, of course, it doesn't make us feel good. As, you know, humans, we want to feel good. We don't want to, like, you know, dive into pain and be like, hey, like, let me deal with this. But it's important that we do. So let yourself feel so that you can heal and that you can move forward. It's so important and you deserve it. So another thing, and this actually goes to my last point, but it's avoiding what we feel. Again, we have to feel in order to heal, and also using unhealthy coping mechanisms in order to, you know, avoid what we feel. You know, again, whether it's drinking and drugs and all these things that are, you know, acting as inhibitors to our brain, and, you know, putting us in these states where we're not fully ourselves. You know, it's so important to try not to, you know, deal with your problems and deal with your pain by engaging in these things. You know, again, drinking drugs, or, you know, having sex excessively in order to fill a void. You know, you have to, again, feel what you feel, allow yourself to go through it, because it's the only way that you can heal and move forward, no matter how hard it is. Another thing that really hinders our spiritual progress is our ego. Now, if you're into spirituality or you're into learning about spiritual subjects, you'll often hear the ego referred to. And my perception of the ego is something, a face that we put on, a facade that we put on, a mask that we wear in order to survive in the world. And on one hand, that's important because, of course, we have to live and survive in this world, and we have to be strong enough to survive. It can also, you know, get in our way and really hinder us from experiencing our true self, our soul self, the person who God really made us on a soul level. When we get too deeply involved, or when we identify too deeply with our ego, if that makes sense. For example, you know, my ego has always been a person who is defensive, who will rip someone to shreds. Like, if I feel attacked, I counterattack, when really in my soul and in my heart, that's not who I am. In my heart, you know, I'm a kind soul, I'm a loving soul, and I don't really like to be that way. I think, you know, inside I really just want love, I want a hug, but, you know, sometimes as a defense mechanism, you know, I don't allow myself to be open, and I don't allow myself to be vulnerable, because that is my means of protecting myself. So that's just an example. And also our ego, you know, stops us from being our best selves, because our ego doesn't want to believe that there's anything wrong with us. You know, we want to think that we're perfect, or we want to think that we have it all together. We want to believe that there's nothing wrong with us. And, you know, we will even get defensive when someone points out a flaw, or when someone mentions that we did something wrong, instead of just acknowledging, you know, hey, that was kind of shitty to do, and I'm sorry. You know, we get defensive because we don't like to be called out, because, you know, our ego feels like someone is telling us that something is wrong with us. But the truth is that as humans, we're not perfect, and we have to be accountable. If you can't be accountable, then how can you grow? So it's very important to be able to disassociate with the ego, and be able to recognize your ego from your true self, so that, you know, you can survive in the world on one hand, but so that you can also be able to separate from that and also be who you are on a soul level. So those are some reasons that, you know, we can be hindered in our spiritual progress. There are a bunch of reasons, and, you know, again, none of us are perfect. We all have things that we're constantly working through, and that's fine. You know, I think our flaws make us human, and they make us beautiful, and it just is what it is. No one's perfect. But nonetheless, remember that God loves you. You are amazing. You are beautiful. You are special. You are wonderful. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Until the next video, we'll speak again.